we are discussing today about reproduction in organisms, part 2 video. In the part 1 we discussed about what is reproduction and different types of reproduction like sexual reproduction and sexual reproduction. In asexual reproduction we discussed about what are the reproductive, sexual reproductive bodies in the animals as well as in the plants. In this video we are going to study about sexual reproduction in detail. Sexual reproduction involves the fusion of male and female gametes produced by the parents of opposite sex, and after that fusion of male and female gamete, then production of zygote and producing young ones or the development of young ones. And all organisms have to reach a certain stage of growth and maturity before they reproduce sexually. And we have juvenile phase, reproductive phase, senescent phase. So let us discuss one by one. First, juvenile phase. So whatever the events which takes place before reproduction of that organism is called juvenile phase. Juvenile phase is also known as vegetative phase in the plants. So we know in juvenile phase there will be growth of the organisms, and if you take the plants, then there will be germination of the seed and producing roots, stem, leaves and branches. Next phase is reproductive phase. When organism attains a certain stage of maturity which has a capacity of producing or reproducing, then it is called as reproductive phase. And the last one is senescent phase. So the concomitant changes which takes place in an organism, like slowing down of the metabolism or decrease in metabolism leading to death, is called as senescent phase. Let us discuss more about reproductive phase. So in reproductive phase of plants, you can find flowers produced seasonally. So such types of plants, example we have like the plants like bamboo. So bamboo plants produces flowers only once in their lifetime. After 50 to 100 years, they produce numerous flowers, fruits, and they die. And we have one more unusual flowering in the plants, that is Neelakuranji or Strobilanthus kuntiana. Scientific name is Strobilanthus kuntiana. This is a plant which produces or flowers only once in 12 years. So bamboo plant produces only once in a lifetime, that is around 50 to 100 years. They produce large number of flowers, fruits, and they die. And in Neelakuranji, Strobilanthus kuntiana, they produces flowers only once in 12 years continuously. And then you take animals. In animals, there is more complex when we consider with the plants or compare with the plants. So animals may be egg-laying, which we call them as oviparous, or they may be giving birth to young ones, which we call them as viviparous. So they may be seasonal or continuous breeders. So next is reproductive phase. In animals, like most advanced forms of mammals, placental mammals, you can find cyclical changes during the reproductive phase, and we classify them into two types. You can find the cyclical changes which takes place in the reproductive organs of the females, ovaries, oviduct, and the hormones. There will be change, and these cyclical changes in the non-primates is called estrous cycle, and in the primates it is called menstrual cycle. So always there will be cyclical changes in the ovaries, as well as oviducts as well as hormones. In the female, it's called as estrous cycle when it takes place in the non-primates. When the same thing takes place in the primates, it's called menstrual cycle. When you take the example of non-primates like cat, dog, cow, these are the examples of estrous cycle. Menstrual cycle, example, man, as well as gorilla, that is apes. So in that there will be menstrual cycle. And when you see this estrous cycle or menstrual cycle, estrous cycle takes place only during certain season of that organism. So these organisms are also known as seasonal breeders. The same menstrual cycle in the primates occurs throughout the year. So it's called as continuous breeders. So we have estrous cycle, menstrual cycle, the cyclical changes which takes place in the ovary of the females, oviduct as well as hormones. In the non-primate is called estrous cycle. The cyclical changes in the females of the ovaries, oviduct and hormones of the primate is called menstrual cycle. Example, cat, dog, cow for estrous cycle. Example, man, gorilla, apes, that is for menstrual cycle. So these estrous cycle organisms or non-primates, you can see the cycle occurs during only certain season. So it's called seasonal breeder. Now in primates, the menstrual cycle occurs continuous throughout the year. So it's called as continuous breeders. So now let us see the events of sexual reproduction. There are mainly three events of sexual reproduction. Pre-fertilization event, fertilization event, post-fertilization. So whatever the incidents or whatever the events which takes place before fertilization are called as pre-fertilization. So before fertilization there will be formation of gametes and the gametes formed should be transferred, and after that fertilization. The fertilization means the fusion of male and female gamete to form zygote. There are two types of fertilization as well as parthenogenesis. We have to discuss post-fertilization. So whatever events which takes place after fertilization are called as post-fertilization. So there is zygote formation and embryogenesis. Start first one. Pre-fertilization. As we said, whatever the events which takes place before fertilization is called as pre-fertilization event. Gametogenesis and gamete transfer are the two steps. Gametogenesis. The process of production of haploid gametes in the male as well as female is called gametogenesis. There are two types of gametes. One is male and the other is female gamete. So they are produced in the male body and female body. So this gamete production is called gametogenesis. These gametes are haploid in nature, and then there are mainly two types of gametes formed. Whenever you observe these male and female gametes, if they look exactly similar in appearance, then it's called homogametes or isogametes. Example, cladophora and alga. Male and female gamete, you cannot distinguish them. It's called homogametes. Heterogametes, here the male and female gamete are distinct morphologically. You can distinguish them into male and female gamete. Example, fucus, that is an alga. Human beings, where male as well as female. So here easily you can distinguish male and female gamete. So coming to sexuality of organisms. When you observe the plants as well as animals, we are frequently using the term bisexual, unisexual. When male and female sex organs are present in the same body, it is called as bisexual. When they are present in different body, then it is called as unisexual. The same term in the fungi, we can use it as homothallic for bisexual, heterothallic for unisexual, monoecious for bisexual, dioecious for unisexual. In plants, examples: cucurbits, coconuts. For bisexual, for unisexual, papaya, date palm. Papaya has male papayas different and female papaya different. Likewise, for animals also we have bisexual as well as unisexual. Bisexual organisms are earthworm, sponge, tapeworm, leech. For unisexual, cockroach, human being and all many advanced animals come under unisexual type of reproduction. So these are some sexuality bases. We classify the animals into bisexual, unisexual. After sexuality, cell division during gamete formation. What type of cell division takes place during gamete formation? So actually the male and female gamete should always be haploid. So because of that, whether the parent is haploid or diploid, depend upon that the type of cell division takes place. Take example, if the plant body is, majority of them are diploid. So body is diploid, then there should be meiosis to produce haploid gametes. So here body is diploid and the gamete should be haploid. For that meiosis should take place. Example for plants, we have pteridophytes, gymnosperms, angiosperms are diploid, and almost all the animals are diploid in nature. Then when you take the same body haploid, then it has to produce gametes. Again, they should also be haploid. Then here the type of cell division is mitosis. So by the process of mitosis, the haploid body of the plant will produce haploid gametes. Example, we have algae, bryophytes as well as monerans who have haploid plant body. They produce gametes by mitosis. Diploid body produces gametes by meiosis. When you observe this one, does it mean that meiosis never occurs in this group? Meiosis takes place because when two haploid gametes fuse together, it forms diploid zygote, and this zygote has to produce haploid plant body. So for that purpose, it has to undergo meiosis. So by undergoing meiosis, it produces haploid. It doesn't mean that meiosis never takes place. So it's like this. The gametes produced are haploid, and so there are specialized cells which are present in the body of the diploid organisms or haploid organisms. That mother cells which has a capacity to produce gamete are called as gamete mother cells. We usually call them as meiocytes. Meiocytes are gamete mother cells which has a capacity to produce gametes. And if you take the example of human beings have 46 chromosome number in diploid stage. When they undergo meiosis, it produces half of this one, that is 23, which we call it as haploid number of gamete. Gamete transfer. When you observe male and female gamete, male is motile, female is stationary. So when male gamete is motile, then it has to reach to the egg, which is stationary. So for that purpose, lower organisms which live in water like algae, bryophytes have the capacity of movement of the male gametes and reach to the stationary female gamete by water. So water is the medium which helps for transfer of most of the male gametes. And when you come to the higher organisms, there is a need of male gametes has to reach to the female gametes physically. So here this have specialized process where we will study in next chapter how the gamete is transferred to the female body. And in plants we have male gametes produced as pollen grains in the stamen and female gametes which are produced in the ovary, which is where the egg is present in the ovule, and there is a process called pollination. By pollination the male gametes reach to the female gamete and thus pollination takes place and fertilization. Coming to the second part, fertilization event. So here fertilization is the fusion of male and female gamete to produce zygote. So male and female gamete fusion is also called as syngamy. So the fusion of male and female gamete is also called as syngamy. Syn refers for fusion, gamy refers for gametes. So the gamete fusion is called syngamy. In some organisms like rotifers, honeybees, turkey birds, lizards, the female gamete undergoes development of young ones without fertilization. It's called parthenogenesis. Parthenogenesis is there is development of young ones by the female gamete without fertilization. It's called parthenogenesis. Then where does this syngamy occurs? So if the syngamy occurs outside the body, it's called as external fertilization. If it takes place inside the body, it is called as internal fertilization. When you observe most of the organisms which are living in water like amphibians as well as algae, bryophytes, the fertilization takes place in outside the body, that is in the water medium, even in the fishes also. It takes place outside the body, so it's called external fertilization. If the fertilization takes place inside, then it's called internal fertilization, like higher organisms like mammals, then birds, then reptiles. Then in external fertilization there will be large number of gametes produced, so that fertilization will be easy because it is outside the body. There may be a chance of failure. So for that purpose, to meet or cope up or compensate with that one, there will be more number of gametes produced compared to the internal fertilization. Here in external fertilization there will be always synchrony of the sexes. Male and female mature at the same time, so that fertilization is accompanied. But in internal fertilization no such type of synchrony is seen. Chances of fertilization is very less because they are vulnerable to predators. As the eggs are laid outside, there is a chance of other organisms to eat the eggs. So in order to avoid that one, to increase the rate of fertilization, there will be always large number of gametes produced. At least few of them will get fertilized and they develop. In internal fertilization, no such large number of gametes produced. Few number of gametes are produced and they are not vulnerable to predators, and the chance of fertilization is very high. Post-fertilization event. Events that occur after fertilization is referred as post-fertilization event. It includes zygote formation as well as embryogenesis. Let us discuss how the formation of zygote takes place. We came to know that fertilization product is zygote. This zygote is formed either outside the body or inside the body, depend upon external fertilization or internal fertilization. And zygote develops a thick coat around it so that it can avoid desiccation as well as damage caused. And when we observe this gamete after fusion, this zygote is a continuous link between the organism from one generation to other generation. So sometimes develop zygote form a spore wall like in fungi as well as in algae. So embryogenesis. Embryogenesis is a process of formation of embryo from the zygote. The embryogenesis include two steps. One is cell division. The other is cell differentiation. So zygote is single cell. This single cell zygote has to undergo cell division so that it can increase its number of cells, and then differentiation so that it can form different parts of the body and it can develop into N1. Cell division increases the number, cell differentiation helps in formation of tissues and organism. So cell division depend upon the plant, whether it is haploid or diploid. As I discussed earlier, that cell division, if the plant body is haploid, then there is a gamete formed by meiosis, and then there is zygote formation by the fusion of both haploid gametes. And as the plant body is haploid, then there should be meiosis during zygote formation. So likewise, it depends upon the haplontic life cycle or diplontic or haplodiplontic type of life cycle. In the plants, after fertilization, the flower, sepals, petals wither off, stamens wither off, then the ovary develops into, so you can see, the ovary develops into fruit, the ovule develop into seed, and the ovary wall develops into pericarp, that is fruit wall, and the ovule develops into seed. And this seed contains embryo, that is which is developed by zygote. So zygote forms embryo. So these are the post-fertilization events in the plants. So this is all about the events of sexual reproduction. If you have any doubts, please post in the comment box.